Your cat has been talking to you all day. Right now, while you're watching this, it's broadcasting its exact emotional state in real time: joy, irritation, fear, trust, the precise second it wants you to stop touching it. And you've almost certainly been reading the wrong part of its body to catch it. We watch the face. We listen to the meows, but a cat's face is fairly fixed and its meows are aimed at manipulating us. The tail is different. The tail is the one channel a cat can barely control. A live, honest readout of what's happening inside its nervous system from one moment to the next. It's the closest thing your cat has to an emotional subtitle running underneath everything it does. And once you can read it, the moody, unpredictable cat you thought you had turns into an open book. So hold on to two things. First, there is one tail signal that means the exact opposite of what the same motion means in a dog, and misreading it is precisely why so many people get scratched out of nowhere. And second, there's a tail signal that is the single highest compliment a cat can pay you, and most people never even notice it because it's subtle and it's over in a second. By the end, you'll catch both. And stick around because the most useful one of all is the warning, the specific tail movement that flips from "I love this" to "stop now" in a fraction of a second. Learn to see it, and you will never again be surprised by a bite that you'll realize afterward your cat clearly announced. Here's why learning this is worth more than it sounds. The number one complaint people have about cats is that they're unpredictable, that they bite or scratch for no reason, that they're moody, that you can't tell what they want. And almost all of that comes from a single failure. We're not reading the body part that's actually telling us. The cat isn't unpredictable. We're just illiterate in the one language it uses most reliably. Think about the cost of that. People get hurt. Bonds get damaged. Cats get labeled aggressive and surrendered to shelters over signals they were broadcasting clearly the whole time that nobody around them could read. Learning the tail isn't a cute party trick. It's the difference between a relationship full of sudden attacks and confusing moods, and one where you can see your cat's feelings coming a mile off and respond before anything goes wrong. Feline behaviorists treat the tail as one of the most reliable indicators of a cat's emotional state precisely because it's so hard for the cat to fake. So the question I want in the back of your mind: what if your cat has never once been unpredictable, and you've simply been reading the wrong page this whole time? Because that's exactly what's going on, and we're about to fix it. Let's start with why the tail is the honest one, because that's the key that makes the whole dictionary trustworthy. A cat's tail is an extension of its spine, a long, flexible run of vertebrae, muscle, and nerves wired directly into how the animal is feeling. And crucially, a lot of what the tail does is involuntary, driven by the same automatic nervous system that controls things you can't consciously fake, like your pupils widening when you're startled. A cat can hold a still face. It can choose to meow or not. But the tail tends to move with the cat's actual internal state, often before the cat has decided anything at all. That's what makes it the lie detector. When the face says nothing, the tail is still telling the truth. So let's read it. And we'll start with the happy end of the spectrum because there's a beautiful signal there that closes one of my promises. When your cat walks toward you with its tail held straight up like a little flagpole, that is a confident, friendly greeting, the feline equivalent of an open, warm hello. Kittens raise their tails to their mothers. Bonded cats raise them to each other. And your cat raises it to you when it's genuinely glad you're there and feels safe. If the tip curls over at the top into a little question mark hook, even better, that's a relaxed, playful, approachable mood and invitation. Think of a cat named Juno who meets her owner at the door every evening with her tail straight up and the tip bent into that little hook. Her owner thought it was just how she walked. It wasn't. It was Juno saying before she made a sound, "It's you, I'm happy, come here." But here's the one most people miss, and it's loop 2. Sometimes that upright tail does something extra. The tip or the whole tail quivers, vibrating rapidly while held high. People glance past it. They shouldn't. That quivering upright tail is one of the most intense expressions of happiness and excitement a cat has, usually reserved for a beloved person it's thrilled to see. It is, in tail language, your cat practically vibrating with joy at your existence. That's loop 2, closed. The highest tail compliment isn't a big dramatic gesture. It's that small, easy-to-miss shimmer, and now you'll never miss it again. Now here's where it gets dangerous because the next signal is the one everybody gets backwards. Loop 1. You know how a dog wags its tail when it's happy? Burn that out of your head when you look at a cat, because in cats it's almost the reverse. A cat that is swishing or lashing its tail back and forth, big whole tail movements side to side with energy, is not happy. That is agitation, irritation, anger building. The faster and harder the lash, the more upset the cat is. People see that motion, pattern match it to a happy dog, reach in to pet the excited cat and get bitten and never understand why. They read a wag. The cat was throwing a warning flag as clearly as it could. Think of a cat named Pixel, whose tail would start thrashing whenever the household kids got too loud. A plain "I'm done, back off." But the kids saw wagging and moved closer every time until Pixel had no option left but claws. The lash wasn't sudden aggression, it was a sentence the kids couldn't read. That's loop 1 closed. A thrashing tail is the opposite of a wag, it's anger, and it's the most important misread to unlearn. But here's where it gets stranger, because the tail also tells you when a cat is afraid, and that looks like two different things. When a cat is frightened or feels threatened, it may puff its tail out into a giant bottle brush, fur standing straight on end, often paired with an arched back. That's the classic Halloween cat silhouette, and its entire purpose is to make the cat look as big and intimidating as possible to scare off a threat. It's not aggression for its own sake, it's a terrified animal bluffing for its life. The opposite fear signal is just as telling, a tail held low or tucked tightly underneath the body between the legs. That's a cat trying to make itself small, to disappear, fear, anxiety, or submission. So the puffed tail says I'm scared and trying to look huge, and the tucked tail says I'm scared and trying to vanish. Same emotion, two strategies, and the tail shows you which one your cat reached for. We're almost at the most useful one, the warning. But first, the subtle tells, because the small movements matter as much as the big ones. Not every signal is dramatic. A cat lying down that thumps its tail against the floor's slow, heavy beats is mildly annoyed. A clear "I'm aware of you and I'd like some space." A tail tip that twitches or flicks while the rest of the cat is still can mean focused concentration. You'll see it when a cat is locked onto a bird at the window or a toy, but a faster, sharper tip flick during interaction means rising irritation. The tail swishing slowly and low while the cat is in a hunting crouch is pure focus, the predator calibrating before a pounce. And the gentlest one, a cat that wraps its tail around you or around another cat, the way you'd put an arm around someone, that's affection, plain connection, no decoding needed. There's also a delightfully specific one at the base of the tail. Scratch a cat right where the tail meets the back, and many cats will hoist their hindquarters straight up into the air, the famous elevator butt. That raised rear, often with the tail going stiff and upright, isn't rude. It's the base of the tail being an unusually sensitive, nerve-rich spot, and the lift is your cat saying, "Yes, right there, more of that." It's a request, an enthusiastic one, and it's one of the clearest keep-going signals a cat gives. There's one rule that makes all of this work though, and skipping it is how people misread even after they've learned the dictionary. You read the tail in context. The exact same motion can mean opposite things depending on the situation. A tail tip twitching while your cat is crouched at the window, eyes locked on a bird, is pure focused concentration, the hunter calibrating. That identical twitch while you're stroking its back is a warning. The movement is the same, the situation tells you which translation applies. Think of a cat named Sasha, whose owner learned to ask two questions in the same instant. What is the tail doing and what is happening right now? A swishing tail over a toy is play. A swishing tail when a strange dog appears is fear. A swishing tail mid-cuddle is irritation. The tail gives you the intensity and the direction of the feeling. The context gives you the feeling itself. Read them together always. And a quick note for anyone whose cat can't give them much tail to read: Manx cats, bobtails, or cats who have lost a tail to injury. They're not silent, they've just lost their loudest channel, so they lean harder on the others. With those cats, you learn to read the ears, the body posture, the eyes, and the overall tension more closely, because the broadcast is still happening, it's just coming through different speakers. Every cat is communicating constantly. The tail is simply the easiest place to start listening. Here's the truth underneath all of it. Your cat is not a moody, unpredictable creature that lashes out without warning. It is a continuous broadcast, a live emotional readout running all day on a channel you simply hadn't tuned into. The tail is a needle on a meter, and the needle is always moving, always honest, always a beat ahead of the bite or the cuddle. The cat was never the problem, the literacy was, and that finally brings us to the most useful signal of all, the warning that prevents the sudden bite. You know the scenario. Your cat is in your lap, you're petting it, it seems to be loving it, purring, relaxed, and then out of nowhere it whips around and bites or scratches your hand and stalks off, and you're left baffled and a little betrayed. It was enjoying it. Why did it attack me? It's called overstimulation or petting-induced aggression, and here's the thing, it was never out of nowhere. The cat told you it was coming with its tail and you missed it. Watch the tail during petting. As long as it's still or softly draped or gently moving, you're fine. But the moment that tail starts to twitch, a tip flick that wasn't there a second ago, then a building swish, that is the dashboard light coming on. That is your cat saying, "I'm reaching my limit, the petting has become too much, you have a few seconds." Cats have a threshold for physical contact, and when it's exceeded, the pleasant sensation tips over into irritation or even discomfort. The tail flick is the early warning, sometimes followed by skin rippling along the back, ears turning, a pause in the purr. If you stop when the tail first starts twitching, there is no bite. There never needs to be. The unpredictable attack is one of the most predictable things a cat does if you're reading the tail. That's the stick around payoff closed. The bite isn't sudden, it's announced, and now you can hear the announcement. And here's what happens once you start actually listening, because this isn't only about avoiding scratches. When you stop petting the moment the tail twitches, when you wait for the upright tail hello before you scoop your cat up, when you back off at the thump and approach at the question mark hook, something shifts in the relationship. Your cat learns that you understand it, that its signals work, that it doesn't have to escalate to claws to be heard, that you respect its yes and its no. And a cat that trusts you to read it relaxes in a way it never could before. Think of a cat named Bandit, who his owner described as aggressive and moody for 2 years, until she learned the tail, started honoring the warnings, and stopped pushing past them. Within months, Bandit wasn't aggressive at all. He'd simply finally been understood. Nothing about Bandit changed. His owner just learned to read him, and the difficult cat turned out to be a cat who'd been asking all along to be listened to. Reading the tail doesn't just prevent bites. It tells your cat in the only way that matters to it that you're paying attention, and that's the foundation everything else is built on. So here's where we land. We started with the most common complaint there is: my cat is moody, unpredictable, bites for no reason. And the truth turned out to be that there was never any mystery. Your cat has been narrating its inner life in real time, all day, every day, in a language written along its spine, the upright tail of a happy hello, the shimmer of pure joy, the lash of rising anger, the puff of fear, the twitch that says that's enough. It was all there, it always was. You were just reading its face when the truth was in its tail. If you think back across everything, the scent map, the secure base, the hunter under the pet, this is the same animal once more, and this time it's handing you the key to all of it. A live feed of exactly how it feels moment to moment if you'll just look 6 inches further back. Your cat isn't hard to read. It's one of the most expressive animals you'll ever live with. You were simply never taught its alphabet. It was never unpredictable. You were reading the wrong page until now, so let's account for everything. The signal that's the opposite of a dog's, the lashing, thrashing tail that means anger, not happiness, the most dangerous one to misread, closed. The highest compliment, the subtle quivering upright tail that means a cat is vibrating with joy to see you, closed. And the most useful one, the petting overstimulation twitch that turns the sudden bite into a clearly announced one you can always prevent, closed. But the tail only tells you the cat's mood. It can't tell you where its attention is or what it's about to do in the next half second. For that, you have to read 2 other things, the ears and the whiskers, and they're broadcasting their own signals you've been walking past your whole life. Together with the tail, they let you read your cat almost completely. That's the next one. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there.